عليكم جميعا كل الناس المحترمين ابناء الشرقيه العظام اللي بيحبوا الرئيس السيسي. تحيه للرئيس السيسي.
السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية. السيدات والسادة.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, 50 years ago we crossed over defeat through being victorious in Sinai, and 10 years ago we overcame defeat through crossing over towards the future, whatever the battles. The equation of the Egyptians would always be the same.
تحدي ثم صمود ثم شجاعة وجرأة ثم حكاية عن بطولة متفردة في تفاصيلها وما تشبهش أي حاجة
different from anything mentioned in history before. Here is the land that knows how to keep memories and to keep impacts and to crave heroism and heroic acts years after years. Whatever the battles are, crossing over is the important thing, and the most important is that Egypt would always be Egypt. If it takes a path, it continues it. If it makes a dream, it meets this dream. If it faces a challenge, it defeats it. And this is the pledge between the land and its people since the world started writing history. We might have reached the end of this meaning, but this is not the end of the story, because it was very difficult to sum up the story in only 3 days. During these 3 days, we tried to talk about the most important scenes over years that represent the most difficult things in the history of this country. But it revealed the essence of the Egyptian, a nation whose sword and weapon is awareness would never be defeated, and even if the battle is difficult, the story would always be as we know it as Egyptians. Pages of light with sacrifices as its sentences and its ends as flags of success with the signature of Egyptians. Over the 3 previous days, the conference story of a nation went on, during which we implemented an integrated vision for a real development stride in all sectors in Egypt, implemented over the past 9 years. And through more than 8 sessions and more than 30 working hours, we covered important topics, the most prominent of which is water and food security, national security, external and foreign policies, in addition to national projects and infrastructure, housing, economy, energy, justice, population and social justice. And this was in the presence of His Excellency the President and the ministers of the Egyptian government, in addition to a number of representatives from the private sector, trade unions, syndicates and politicians, as well as the presence of political powers and youth. Today we'll tell you the story of Egypt since 2011 up till today. countries do not live, grow, and survive on their own. They survive through sacrifice, devotion, dedication, and work and efforts. It gives me great honor to stand before you today to review what was done by the state over more than 9 years of achievements in all walks of life that serve the Egyptian citizen, achievements unprecedented that did not take place for decades. And I'm not over-exaggerating when I say that they were not achieved in centuries. We took the economic path immediately, and the Egyptian citizen was its main champion who dealt with patience and determination to make this path a success. The world met in 2015 and developed a sustainable development agenda agreed upon with 17 goals that the world should be committed to implementing in 2030. The most important goal of them is alleviating poverty, hunger, reaching sustainable cities, clean energy, gender equality, decent job opportunities. Egypt was proactive in adopting this development agenda, and Your Excellency launched the Egyptian national version of the UN agenda by the beginning of 2016. And in Egypt's Vision 2030, we have our main goal regarding education accessibility and competitiveness. So in higher education, we've achieved accessibility through providing 103 universities and a public university in every governorate. So we've achieved accessibility, and we are working on achieving competitiveness according to Egypt's Vision 2030. Your Excellency talked about what happened in 2016 when everyone said that an economic reform is a must, and the economic reform won't be an easy one, and the economic reform would be painful. Mr. President, since the 5th of April 2020, in this meeting, we felt how much you were concerned about the economic success we attained, and that if this crisis would last, what would happen. You as a citizen want to live, and I agree with you totally. You want to bring up your children, and we are by your side. You need them to find a job opportunity, and it is also your right. But how we will do it without understanding the story, this instability that lasted since 2011 up till 2013 harmfully impacted the country. If the price of building this country is my death, I'm ready to sacrifice myself. I'm one of you and I'm your brother. So long as the country is stable, it can move forward. You consider development an adventure, a risk? Do you consider construction and reform a risk? Don't summarize this and don't make people watch what we're doing. Be resilient and turn these difficult conditions into a gift. And believe me, the more resilient you will show, the quicker it will pass. How did we create important bridges with the external world to implement the Egyptian vision through international multiple partnerships? We are seeking to support international cooperation with our multilateral, bilateral development partners, the civil society, the private sector, to support the national agenda for sustainable development goals. The private sector is not just big corporates working with the country on major projects, but also small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurship. One of the most important requests of manufacturers and businessmen was to unify the mandate authority for agricultural industrial lands as well as for licensing. We established 17 industrial clusters in 15 governorates. It cost 5,620 industrial units that provide 48,000 direct job opportunities. To reach the 1 billion experts I need to compete, know how to access these markets and control the quality of my product. So I need to have the production materials. We allocated 160 plots of land for 1 million meters with 17 billion Egyptian pounds a cost. The expected jobs in them 26,000. I need to have a figure in dollars that I would put without waiting for return. For that to happen, my revenues from the dollar should be equal my expenses from dollars or even more. If the volume of industry or commodities that would need more than this figure, we will fund it. No problem, because in the end it increases the GDP, it creates job opportunities and brings other revenues. The idea of these clusters is that we said the investor, be it a medium-sized or a small-sized investor, look for license and permits and funds for this plot of land. Would we do the industrial zones and provide him with what he needs, and then he gets the license? If we need more, we can do more, of course, to give people job opportunities, to increase GDP, reduce the import cost, and this is the only means that would help this country move forward. 2014, the deficit we have in electricity capacity was 6,000 megawatts. I know that we had always meetings with the president because he was very much concerned by overcoming this problem immediately and give us orders to consider electricity a national interest. When we introduced Siemens stations, first we used to get 114 kilowatts per hour, and now we reached 171.9, and this represents 20% saving in consumption of fuel to produce energy and electricity. There were control rules on the network 7, and right now we updated 4 of them, and we added 2 other centers, and the total cost of construction and updating these 6 centers was 5.4 billion Egyptian pounds. We have additional requirements that are under study, 28.8. This shows how the world has full confidence in Egypt's ability to produce renewable energy with strong networks. We have solar energy, wind energy. We developed a strategy, and this strategy is the strategy of developing and updating the sector. We developed a vision and plans for all the value chain that covers all elements, be it sustainability, performance, or empowerment. We made international bids in addition to direct contracts with the big international companies to accelerate the development of production. To sign the agreements of the borders with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Mediterranean countries helped, and Zohr well was developed through signing agreements with Cyprus, and these were agreements that were binding to spend $20 billion and technical minimum to dig 450 exploratory wells, and the reserves are estimated to be 35 trillion cubic meters for the exploratory wells for 2024-2025. Up till now, we have dug 10 wells, and we found excavations of 2.6 trillion feet. The most important was Nargis, to restore confidence and reassure the companies to come back to the country and work on it. Things did not stop. Things in Egypt do not stop because people need fuel, gas, electricity, and petroleum. And they do not know that because of instability, the gas production reduced, and we had to purchase. Whether we have funds or not, if the economy is not that strong, then it is like the dominoes. this is destroying that, and so on, so the state collapses. So we wanted to finish this issue quickly. Why? Because of what we lost over 50 years was much, and we want to do these rates. It is not for us, but it's for the state and those who will be responsible for the state at any time to keep working with these rates for 20 or 30 years. The relationship between stability and the state as a state, in order not to have a problem of electricity, energy, education, or health, is deep and genuine. Every problem that arose, we came up with solutions that costed billions, whether ports would be closed or not. We have now reserve to meet the needs of the people for 60 days. These things are not done except when the country is setting plans and implementing these plans. This is our conditions, and we need to change it, and this is our weakness, and we need to end it. It's a must. We had a group of main challenges facing the file of urban development, and we selected the most important 5 challenges: the narrow spatial area, the gap between the supply and demand of housing units, the overpopulation and the densely polluted areas, the congestion of traffic leading to pollution, weak supply of water and wastewater services. Now we produced over the 9 years 1.5 million housing units with a rate 167,000 housing units annually, social housing units and units for all Egyptians in areas that serve all Egyptians. And here we can see Greater Cairo in August 2015, and the traffic and the red lines on Google Map, and now in August 2023, how things are very different. We developed a plan to update and develop the transport system in all sectors, be it roads or bridges or railways or tunnels or seaports, land and dry ports, logistical hubs, river transport. And to implement this plan, we allocated 2 trillion Egyptian pounds. The Egyptian fleet was depleting, and the Egyptian companies were dissolved. So thank God we were able to preserve 4 companies, and we started developing using them. We did not have before dry ports. We used to have 4 land ports on the borders with Libya and Sudan and Palestine, but developing trade to be part of the Belt and the Road Initiative, we needed to develop ourselves and have dry ports and logistical hubs. And the commodities would go to the dry ports, and then it would go into the local market. In every word mentioned by Dr. Asim or Minister Kamel, for every point presented or not presented, this was the result of an effort, a will for this country to change. I just wanted to say that we won't be able to wait up till 2030. And if you are interested in the future of this country, then the logistical corridors you're talking about cannot wait that long. Of course, you have full right to study logistical hubs on our eastern borders. These are Egypt's assets. Egypt balances. When you come to talk about an asset for 200 or 300 billion pounds, its cost is as such. But if you would mention that this asset is only to reduce the ticket price, then you are wasting this asset. We cannot get Dr. Mustafa a request for a housing unit and not meet it. So we need to build more housing units. The 2 million housing units that you've talked about, if there is no law to make people forget the culture of fear about the housing unit you might give to someone else or rent, then this idea won't be successful. We developed a number of main corridors and elements to achieve the strategy. The first was horizontal and vertical expansion, as well as increasing competitiveness of agricultural experts and raising the efficiency of water use and developing livestock, poultry and fisheries. We have Tushka El Khair project and revival of this project. This is one of the projects that took a lot of efforts and people talked a lot about it, and we were honored that you visited it and inaugurated it, and indicators show high productivity, fertile land, less fertilizers. And this national project for veal is for small farmers. And this project, although it was endorsed by the cabinet in 2012, but it did not come into force except by the end of 2016. And thank God we have 43,000 beneficiaries, and the funding after it was 300 million in the beginning, it reached 8 billion pounds for this project. And this is a photo from Manzala Lake. The problems, the weeds in it, so the lake almost was invisible. But now we restored the lake, and here I would like to thank the engineering authority of the armed forces and the different authorities that helped us to revive this lake. You're talking about 250,000 fiddans. For 5 years we've been working on them, dredging, purifying the lake. The 250,000 fiddans is like a natural industrial farm. If you use it optimally and regulate fishing in it, and as well in Bardawil and Brollis and Etko and Nasser Lake, then your productivity would increase 2 or 3 folds. The total finance providing for the small producers is 77 billion Egyptian pounds. There is a subsidy of 5.5 billion pounds, and there are some initiatives that support 400,000 farmers benefited from it, in addition to the other initiatives that were launched recently, like exemption from installments and the delay penalties. And these are the indicators that show us in green, representing that we have been ranked higher. We started in 2016 by connecting the databases of the state until we reached in 2020 to finalize connecting all the databases of the Egyptian government, about 100 in the information Egyptian infrastructure. The system of digitalization and digital transformation is not just limited to Egypt's digital platform, but we have also a wide group of automation projects. Some of them were finalized and others are in different phases, with investments of 45 billion Egyptian pounds, and also the government moved to the new administrative capital. This entailed archiving digitally more than 250 million documents, the biggest archiving project in the Middle East. 250 million documents that are digitalized now. All files of the Egyptian government are now digitalized and not paper. Since the beginning of the internet up till the year 2019, we had a network of 2,700. During 2019, only we established a network 2,650 kilometers. So what was done in 20 years was done equally in 1 year. For the government buildings, we have 35,000 government buildings. We connected 20,000 of them in different parts of Egypt through optical cables, so that the government authorities would be able to provide automated and digitalized services. Over the previous 6 years, information and technology sector is the highest grown, between 16 to 17% growth rate. In 2018, the World Bank classified Egypt as category C in the preparedness of the government for digital transformation. And in 2020, World Bank classified Egypt in category B, and in 2021, Egypt is categorized in category A, which is the highest category. While talking together 2 or 3 years ago, he told me the cables are cut. I asked him how. Why don't you do this on the corridor of Suez Canal? He said, for 10 years we are not able to do it. I told him we can do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. And we did it. And I'm telling him right now, if you want to do 10, I'm ready. People think that when we say a state is managed in a modern method and developing the administrative system through modern technologies, every word you say here turns into effort and the financial cost. We tell people, have confidence in yourself and not in ourselves. And we tell people there is hope, and you are the source of this hope. So we are telling them this is what was done over the past 4 years and not since we started.
أصبح الأمن الغذائي من أهم الأمور على أجندة كافة الدول.
On the agenda of all countries, be it the economic power or developed countries or the least developed countries, because food security represents an essential part of the national security of all countries. Food security depends on 3 main elements: providing and accessibility to goods, and then the proximity of these goods to the citizen. Third, the ability of the citizen to purchase these commodities. The Ministry of Supply is considered to be the biggest ministry contributing to digital transformation, be it regarding the supply services or the database of beneficiaries or all other services provided. With the approval of the cabinet and the prime minister, we did not increase the price of any commodity on the ration card since last year. In 2014, the bread subsidy was 18.5 billion pounds, and now it is 91.6 billion pounds. All this difference is incurred by the state budget to keep the price of the bread as is now. We are establishing the barracks of Beirut and the old barracks, and we are protecting them as a heritage, and we are restoring them, and we are spending 1.1 billion pounds for Beirut barracks, and the utilities are developed with a cost of 3 billion Egyptian pounds. And this item in the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation is for developing the main utilities with a cost of 12 billion Egyptian pounds over the past 9 years. The station that stops for 2 hours, there are sometimes tens, hundreds and thousands of farmers or houses that do not receive water. So these stations and plants should work around the clock. This means the maintenance and the substitution and replacement should go on, and this was not the case before 2014. We used to have areas considered hot spots And to avoid that, the state needed to spend in the replacement of 45 stations to serve 1.7 million fidans. The state is reusing 21 billion cubic meters of water annually. We've added to the system 13.1 million cubic meters of water coming from Bahr al-Baqar drainage and station, and 7.5 coming from Dab'a station. 7 or 8 years ago, we talked about tertiary water treatment, and we started a program for 300 billion Egyptian pounds 7 years ago. And we finished it. What is still remaining? I have nothing else to do. I mean, the state does not have anything else to do for the water besides realizing the population of Egypt. For everything we discuss, you will find that the issue of population is an important dimension for stability. When I raised the idea or the plan with Dr. Mustafa and the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Irrigation to have secondary and tertiary treatment plants for all the water coming out of agriculture, drainage and industrial drainage to be recycled, treated, and to get them back into their pathways and waterways. There is nothing else we can do. To have water stations to produce 300 billion meters of water is impossible. No one can do it. And I'm saying to every Egyptian citizen, this is not the country of a specific person, it's ours all. So we need all to protect and preserve it. We're here talking about the coming generations. What are we going to leave to the coming generations? They would say they did not think, did not plan, did not prepare themselves. We are saying here that we are doing it. It is the story of the health of an Egyptian citizen since he's born until he deceases, going through all his phases of his age. There is no house and no human being who does not need treatment. In 2014, the annual budget we used to receive from the state budget was 42 billion, and we reached 222 billion last year. We overcame the problem. Forbes asked why the US was not able to end hepatitis C as Egypt did. Egypt, through a lot of limited resources and in a very short time, to put an end to hepatitis C. How the US was not able to do this to its citizens who have hepatitis C. 126,000 beds and in the hospitals, and some statistics say 132,000 beds. This is the capacity of Egypt. The president always say that we are talking about 1.2%, 1.2 beds for the citizen. This is a very big project. When the president talked about plasma, you purchase plasma for how much, and the plasma derivatives used for diseases. Why wouldn't Egypt be a country that would have self-sufficiency of plasma and maybe even export it? See who in the world can cooperate with other, but select the biggest specialist, which is Grevels in Spain, and this is ranked top in the world on working on blood derivatives. I consider this to be part of improving the behaviors and the habits of the Egyptian if we turn it into a national project for plasma production, because the standards used in accepting the samples are very strict. So if I have a center in any university, then all the young men and women in the university, if they want to donate in this center, they will protect their health and would have healthy habits. Because anything wrong, he won't be able to participate. Our people in the Ministry of Solidarity are simple people. They need to be qualified, rehabilitated. They need intermediate sectors to help them, and some of them can cross from the Solidarity to Ms. Meda, and some of them keep simple projects, but they at least enable them to sustain themselves. If we said that we have from 1.7 to 5.2 million families are the beneficiaries. I look at the number of population. In 2014, we're talking about 6.5 million population to reach 22 million persons with the increase you mentioned recently. The state is taking steady steps. That's why we needed to accelerate and build capacities and do automation, build the infrastructure, as if we are repairing and fixing a plane while on a flight. So we have financial aid of 8 billion for people of determination, and there are a lot of other things that we're doing for them. We are talking about governance of the grants and charities for orphans, and we work with a lot of civil society organizations and associations. We implemented your directive, and we reached 20% of them, and we hope that we'll reach 30% because the Prime Minister accepted to take 5% of Takaful and Karama to be spent in aids, not monthly financial aid, but paying tuition fees for schools, taking them on picnics, so we will improve things for them in the future because we are responsible for them. Dr. Maid, would you please raise this figure? It is 1,750,000,000, then we will put 1,750,000,000. So it would be 3.5 for rescue and compensations. The Prime Minister was following up this issue. The compensations in case of disasters, accidents, when the family loses everything it has. So we increased it from 10,000 to 100,000 Egyptian pounds. So the percentage has increased 1,000%. This figure that you've mentioned, we've introduced it to our victims in Libya. I wish that the families that have victims, sons and wives, they would get the pension in light of what we've discussed before. The foreign policy was a mirror to internal conditions. We need to remember how the state was before 2014. It was suffering from a lot of difficulties because of internal instability and economic challenges, setback in its regional and international roles. In addition to that, there was something that paid my attention on the personal level, that the president insisted that the Egyptian foreign policy would be based on human ethical principles derived from the heritage of this country, its civilization and its religion. And here came intensifying communication on the bilateral level in the circles of Egyptian relations, be it with Arab countries, African countries, Islamic countries, as well as Mediterranean countries, developing countries that Egypt has always been the main defender of their interests. The human rights issue is an issue that takes a lot of dimensions. And before being a concern for others, it's a matter of concern for the president and for ourselves, because we are concerned about the Egyptian citizen and achieving development for him. And the comprehensive perspective of human rights, his political, social, human rights, and the best example to that is Decent Life initiative that became a role model everywhere, showing the real care for human rights and citizen rights. The role played by Egypt in presiding over and hosting COP27, the achievements that we achieved in establishing the Loss and Damage Fund. It was a dream for the developing countries, and they considered including it on the agenda to be an achievement. And now we are jointly presiding over the International Forum for Fighting Terrorism with the EU in appreciation to the efforts and sacrifices made by Egypt in fighting terrorism. Understanding what Egypt can achieve through the will of wise leadership enables us to take decisions based on these principles we've talked about. The principles based on civilization, values, commitment, and discipline. All that would lead this valuable country to all its ambitions, and Egyptian diplomacy will keep protecting and defending the interests of the country in the new republic under the leadership of the president. And full respect to him and to all Egyptians. Thank you. During 2011, there was an unprecedented increase in criminal crimes, and of course the police was unable to deal with it. The security condition is a very difficult situation that puts the citizen and the state at stake. And the decision of the leadership back then was to face terrorism and crimes and restore stability and security, and in the meantime reconstruct the state and develop it to take its position among countries. In comparison to 2011, the crime rate decreased by 9%, and this is a record figure. And there has been an increase of detention of crimes from 57% in 2013 to 95% in 2023. The Ministry of Interior plays its role in developing this awareness through organizing symposiums, workshops, educational lectures about the plans to internally destroy countries, and it invites to them segments of the community, students and civil servants. I quote the president when saying that we are in continuous progress and development without any ceiling, and we have always to consider that we are in a race with the crime, and we need to be proactive to achieve security and stability for Egypt. And I remember also when the president said that stability and security is the foundation for the survival of countries. What happened in 2011 is something that we need to learn from a lot of lessons, and all the measures made against the state should not be repeated. They should be avoided. All state institutions were destroyed so that it would be a stateless state. After the destruction of the security directorates, police stations, churches, everything they were able to destroy, they did it. So our crises and our struggles need ideas and strategic patience. we would never get into reciprocal statements. We are collaborating and cooperating with others. Some would say that this is the ideal world. I will tell you, you can see the results. You would keep conspiring against me, and I defend myself. And whenever you get more angry, you work more. The armed forces and the Ministry of Interior paid a high price. The Ministry of Interior was rebuilding itself and fighting terrorism. It was rebuilding itself and fighting crimes. It was so important to change the negative image about the state. The image about Egypt in the mind of the world during 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2015 should come to an end and be replaced by a strong image of a strong country. And you have seen this over the 9 years. A hand will fight and control and prevent, thanks to God, and with our ability to be just to others, and Allah witnessed this. And with the same second arm, with the same strength, it would work, build and construct, to make a change, to change our reality, this difficult, dark reality, to change it and turn it into a country that your grandsons and sons deserve. I think that now you learned the story that will keep telling a generation after the other for a long years. The story of a great country and a struggling nation with the relentless will that enabled it to face its struggles with determination, meet its dream and turn it into a reality and build a new future. It was not an easy story. We sacrificed and we endured a lot and we stood by our country, as there were generations that sacrificed their lives for us to enjoy now security and restore our lands. There should be another generation that would shoulder the responsibility, work, build for himself and for the coming generations and for a strong state. They tried to divide us and get us into struggle so that the dream won't come true, and the story was either we rule you or kill you. And even when they tried to waste our joy with every achievement, we kept on working and we struggled with one hand, fought with it, and we built with the other.
بحالها المصريين، إرادتنا قوية وأسود واقفين.
إرادة شعب وشجاعة ورؤية رئيس قدر إنه يحيي فينا الأمل.
Who had a vision and was able to revive hope in ourselves and to prove our confidence in our people, to make us make our dream with our own hands.
مساء الخير على سعادتك سيادة الرئيس.
President.
مساء الخير على حضراتكم جميعا.
Good evening, everybody.
أنا فخور وسعيد.
I'm so glad and proud
أنا بشارك في حكاية
to participate in the story of a nation, the story of Egypt, the mother of the world,
اللي سعادتك حلمت دايما
that Your Excellency have always dreamt of making it equal to the world.
أنا بشكر سعادتك على
I would like to thank Your Excellency for the idea of telling the story,
لأن المصريين كانوا
because Egyptians needed to know the story,
يعرفوا كنا فين،
to know where were we and where are we now,
يعرفوا نتيجة عملهم،
to know the result of their work, patience, and efforts, because what happened in 10 years is not just achievements, it's miracles rather.
بعد ما سمعنا
And
الحكاية
after we heard the story,
اسمح لي أشكرك.
let me thank Your Excellency in my name and in the name of every Egyptian for your courage and devotion,
سعد صبرك
your patience,
على حسن أخلاقك وصبرك.
for your behavior that has been a role model for us and our sons, for your confidence and believing in us, and for depending on Allah.
النهارده
Today,
أنا مش بشكرك لوحدي،
I'm not thanking you alone.
أنا معايا ملايين.
I have with me millions of Egyptians.
جوه وبره
Millions of Egyptians in villages, cities,
كل محافظات مصر
in all Egyptian governorates who thank you and are telling you, go on, continue the path, and we are by your side. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I thank you. I thank you for your contribution and for your nice words throughout the previous period and not just today. I'm the one who thank you in my name and in the name of all Egyptians. Thank you very much for your nice words. Thank you. I'm saying this because I fear that you would be impatient because you said a word a few days ago. Thank you, Mr. Ah. And now, the speech of the hero of the story, Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic.
شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much.
إن شاء الله تحيا مصر.
Long live Egypt.
تحيا بيكم كلكم. بسم الله الرحمن
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Thanks be to Allah.
شعب مصر العظيم.
The great people of Egypt.
أيها الشعب الأبي الكريم.
The great honorable people. It was a very nice, fruitful time that we spent together over the previous days, telling the story of the nation and this country for which we all work and for which and for its development we faced challenges and achieved for it. Thanks be to God all these achievements. I would like to tell you, we together, the Egyptians, have done a historical legend when we overcame frustration and depression and restored our valuable Egypt from the hands of the group of darkness and deceit. And then we overcame the challenge to rebuild our great country so that its people would enjoy dignity, equality, justice, and development. Together, we faced terrorism that wanted to destroy our will, and our kind land had the blood of our martyrs, the sons of Egypt. Let me, at this moment, because at this moment we are here thanks to the sacrifices of these sons. So let us stand a moment in silence in respect to them and to tell their families that we would never forget your sacrifices for the stability of this country. Take your seats, please. Thank you. Our will was relentless in front of all these challenges. And the sons of Egypt and its girls announced that they are ready to go through this battle to build Egypt. So achieved a lot of accomplishments. They achieved glory and national pride. And the will of the Egyptians was and is always the main engine to continue this dream to build our modern state that is well deserved by the sacrifices of Egyptians, the great people of Egypt. While we are starting our new republic that seeks to continue the path of the state and rebuilding it on the basis of modernity, democracy, we are renewing our pledge together to work to continue our dreams for our dear Egypt, our valuable homeland that has met the sacrifices and the blood of all Egyptians and martyrs. As a strong country based on social justice, human dignity, the state of institutions that achieve for its citizens a decent life, and for our dreams to come true, we will work together. I very much followed the national dialogue that was in its primary form promising to continue it, and I directed the government and all state institutions to work on studying the package of outcomes from this national dialogue. I would like to tell you that I intend to go on with this national dialogue as well as continue developing the political and partisan life in Egypt. So that the state would have alternatives, multiple visions in a permanent manner. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, after we followed during the proceedings of this conference the facts and the figures about the reality of the state, how was it and how it became? We renew our pledge that it would be reality full of peace and good love for all Egyptians, God willing. There is no fear for a nation in which the crescent of its mosque meets the cross of its church, and a nation whose sons love it won't be divided, and no country whose women protected the voice of national conscience would collapse. I have full confidence in our nation that it is fearless, unbreakable, and it would only arise above its challenges to make pyramids of glory and history. And I would like to tell you that, as always, when I met the call of Egyptians and assumed this responsibility, I did not own the wealth of the land or the rosy dreams and promises. I have nothing but my belief in Allah and in Egypt, and being biased to your will and working impartially and dedicated, carrying the honor of the Egyptian military, and this is the medal that I carry on my heart. I faced with you all the challenges and crises, and with you we overcame all the crises and challenges, and together we reached hope. And today, while we are about holding the presidential elections to shoulder the responsibility of managing the state, as I have always done over the previous 10 years, I do not take a step except when the Egyptians call upon me to take this step. I call on all the Egyptians to make these elections the real beginning for a political life full of vitality that witnesses multiplicity, diversity, difference without any discrimination. And as an Egyptian citizen, before being a president, I was glad that we have this diverse group of candidates, and I express to them all respect and appreciation. Difference is God's rule in His creation and an undeniable truth, and diversity is a real richness that shows the ability of our nation to survive. And I exerted efforts, and I met my promises as much as I can, and I worked in devotion for this country with good wills. And as I met the call of the Egyptians before saying this paragraph, I will ask you to pray to Allah. We would like to pray to Allah If
أولى بها مني
others deserve this position more than myself, then be by his side.
ويا رب ويا رب
And let's
إذا
pray
كنت
to
أنا
God.
أولى بها
If I deserve it, then please lead me to it.
أنتوا عايزين تتعبوا على طول بقى.
It seems that you want to be tired and exhausted the whole time. Thank you very much.
بإذن الله
God willing, I now would respond to your call again.
هقول مرة تانية
I will repeat again.
يا رب
I pray to Allah that I deserve this position. And I intend to run for the presidential elections to continue the dream in a new presidential term. And I promise you to make this presidential term an extension of our work together for the future of Egypt and its people. And I invite all Egyptians to vote in this democratic scene, to select with their national conscience who deserves to be the president, and may God give the rule to he who deserves it. And this is the will of the Egyptians that I respect and I work for and with. I would like to tell you that I never made promises or said words that I cannot meet. All what I can say right now is that I will keep on working and working, and may God help us. And I am talking to you and to each and every Egyptian. Please, I would be glad and honored if the participation of the Egyptians who have the right to vote is high. I want them all to go to the polling station even if they are not going to elect me. I want you to show the world that this is a state and there is people in the state who have a will, and this is the will of the people and not the will of the ruler. It's the will of the people who bring the ruler. And when people in the whole world would see that the Egyptians took to the polling stations, we all would be glad and honored to have this result. We spend a lot of hours doing a lot of things, so we should not feel that this is much for Egypt. We should all encourage ourselves and go to the polling stations and all elect whoever you want. It's Allah by the end of the day who selects the ruler. And I swear by Allah that I would be satisfied by the result.
قولوا يا رب شعب مصر العظيم
The great people of Egypt,
إن نبتة الأمل
The seedling of hope flourishes with work and honest words and action. These are the only means that would enable us to attain our dream together, God willing. Together and with you and by Allah, before Egypt would live. Long live Egypt, and peace be upon you all.
السلام الوطني لجمهورية مصر العربية.
مش عارف اشتغل كويس. سامعني الجمله لو سمحت. سامعني الجمله بتاعي لو سمحت.
والآن مع كلمة بطل الحكاية السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية.
شكرا جزيلا. إن شاء الله تحيا مصر، تحيا بيكم كلكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. شعب مصر العظيم، أيها الشعب الأبي الكريم، لقد كانت أوقات طيبة ومثمرة تلك التي قضيناها معا على مدار الأيام الماضية، ونحن نسرد حكاية الوطن، الوطن الذي نعمل من أجله جميعا، وواجهنا من أجل رفعته التحديات، وحققنا له بفضل الله الإنجازات. وأقول لكم لقد حققنا معا نحن المصريين ملحمة تاريخية حين تجاوزنا اليأس والإحباط واسترددنا مصرنا العزيزة من براثن جماعة الظلام والغدر، ثم تجاوزنا التحدي لكي نعيد بناء دولتنا العظيمة ليتحقق لأبنائها الكرامة والعدالة والتنمية. واجهنا إرهاباً غاشماً أراد النيل من عزائمنا، وارتوت أرضنا الطيبة بدماء الشهداء الأبرار من خيرة أبناء مصر. واسمحوا لي في اللحظة ديت لأن احنا في اللحظة اللي احنا موجودين فيها دي، احنا موجودين بالحالة اللي احنا موجودين فيها بفضل تضحيات هذه الأبناء، إن احنا نقف لهم ونقف لأسرهم عشان نقول لهم إن احنا أبداً لن ننسى لكم أبداً ما قدمتموه من أجل استقرار هذه البلد. تفضلوا استريحوا. شكراً. لم تلن عزائمنا أو تضعف أمام كل هذه التحديات، بل أعلن أبناء مصر وبناتها عن أنفسهم وخاضوا معركة بناء مصر، فحققوا لها الإنجاز، محققين المجد والفخر الوطني. وقد كانت إرادة المصريين وما زالت هي المحرك الرئيسي والباعث الأساسي لاستكمال الحلم في بناء دولتنا العصرية الحديثة التي تليق بما قدمه شعب مصر من تضحيات. شعب مصر العظيم ونحن على أعتاب جمهوريتنا الجديدة التي تسعى لاستكمال مسيرة بقاء الدولة وإعادة بنائها على أسس الحداثة والديمقراطية، فإننا نجدد العهد معاً على العمل من أجل استكمال أحلامنا لمصرنا العزيزة، وطننا الغالي المروي بدماء الشهداء وتضحيات كل المصريين. وطناً عظيماً قوياً قائماً على أسس العدالة الاجتماعية والكرامة الإنسانية ودولة المؤسسات التي تحقق لمواطنيها الحياة الكريمة، ولأجل أحلامنا سنعمل معاً على تحقيقها. وقد تابعت باهتمام بالغ حالة الحوار الوطني التي كانت في شكلها الأولي مبشرة وباعثة على الاستمرار فيها، وقد وجهت الحكومة والأجهزة المعنية بالدولة للعمل على بحث ودراسة حزمة المخرجات التي أفرزها الحوار. وأؤكد لكم أنني أعتزم الاستمرار في هذه الحالة الحوارية، وكذا الاستمرار في تطوير وتنمية الحياة السياسية والحزبية. لتتحقق للدولة مسارات وبدائل ورؤى متعددة وبشكل دائم. السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، وبعد أن تابعنا خلال فعاليات هذا المؤتمر من أرقام وحقائق عن واقع الدولة المصرية كيف كان وكيف أصبح، فإننا نجدد العهد بأنه سيكون واقعاً يفيض بالخير والسلام والمحبة لكل المصريين بإذن الله. فلا خوف على أمة يتعانق هلال مسجدها مع صليب كنيستها، ولا تنكسر أمة تجرد شبابها من الهوى إلا عشق الوطن كشباب مصر، ولا تسقط أمة حافظت سيداتها على صوت الضمير الوطني. فيقيني في أمتنا أنها لا تخاف ولا تنكسر ولا تسقط، بل تعلو فوق تحدياتها لتصنع للمجد أهراماً وللحضارة تاريخاً. وأقول لكم بلسان صادق كما عهدتكم بأنني حين لبيت نداء المصريين وتوليت المسؤولية التي حملوني إياها لم أكن أملك خزائن الأرض أو جوامع الوعود الوردية أو جوامع الوعود الوردية. لم أكن أملك سوى إيماني بالله وبمصر وانحيازي لإرادتكم والعمل بتجرد وإخلاص، حاملاً معي شرف العسكرية المصرية ويكفيني بها وساماً على صدري. واجهت معكم وبكل التحديات والأزمات، واجهت معكم وبكم كل التحديات والأزمات، وعبرنا معاً جسور الأمل. واليوم ونحن بصدد استحقاق انتخابي لتولي مسؤولية إدارة الدولة المصرية، فإنني كما تعهدت معكم منذ سنوات 10 مضت لا أبادر إلا باستدعاء المصريين الذين أدعوهم بدعوة صادقة أن يجعلوا هذه الانتخابات بداية حقيقية لحياة سياسية مفعمة بالحيوية تشهد تعددية وتنوعاً واختلافاً دون تجاوز أو تجريح. وكمواطن مصري قبل أن أكون رئيساً كانت سعادتي بالغة بهذا التنوع في المرشحين الذين بادروا لتولي المسؤولية. لهم جميعا مني كل التقدير والاحترام. فالاختلاف سنة الله في خلقه وحقيقة لا يمكن إنكارها، والتنوع هو ثراء حقيقي يدلل على خصوبة أمتنا وقدرتها على البقاء. والحق أقول أنني قد بذلت الجهد وصدقت العهد قدر ما استطعت، وتجردت للوطن مخلصا له العمل والنوايا. وكما لبيت نداء المصريين من قبل، فإنني قبل أن أقول الفقرة ديت هطلب منكم إن احنا نتوجه إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى وندعوه ونقول له يا رب. طب من فضلكم، طب اسمحوا لي، إن كان يا رب في غيري أولى بها مني فوفقه ويسر له. ويا رب إذا كنت أنا أولى بها فوفقني ويسر لي. انتوا عايزين تتعبوا على طول بقى. طيب، متشكر جدا. فإنني بإذن الله ألبي اليوم نداءهم مرة أخرى، وعقدت العزم هقول مرة تانية يا رب أكون أنا أولى بها، يا رب أكون أنا أولى بها، يا رب نكون أولى بها. وعقدت العزم على ترشيح نفسي لكم لاستكمال الحلم في مدة رئاسية جديدة. أعدكم بإذن الله بأن تكون امتدادا لسعينا المشترك من أجل مصر وشعبها. اتفضلوا استريحوا لو سمحتوا، اتفضلوا. وأدعو كل المصريين إلى المشاركة في هذا المشهد الديمقراطي ليختاروا بضميرهم الوطني المتجرد من يصلح، والله يولي من يصلح. تلك دعوتي الصادقة، وهذه إرادة المصريين التي أحترمها وأعمل بها ولها. أنا عايز أقول لكم إن أنا عمري ما وعدت وعود ولا قلت كلمة ما أقدرش أعملها. أنا كل اللي هقدر أقوله لكم إن أنا هفضل أشتغل أشتغل أشتغل، وربنا اللي يوفق. وأنا بكلمكم وبكلم كل مصري ومصرية، من فضلكم والله هيسعدني جدا ويشرفني جدا إن نسب المشاركة من كل المصريين اللي هم لهم حق الانتخاب إن هم ينزلوا، حتى والله لو لم يختاروني، حتى والله لو لم يختاروني. أنا عايزكم تظهروا للعالم إن هنا في دولة، وهنا في ناس، وهنا في إرادة الناس، مش إرادة حاكم. إرادة الناس هي اللي هتجيب الحاكم. ولما الناس كده كلها تشوف في العالم كله إن كل المصريين نزلوا أي ما كانت النتيجة هتسعدنا كلنا، لأنها هتشرفنا وهتشرف بلدنا. فإحنا يعني بنقعد ساعات كتير جدا في أمور كتيرة، مش كتير على مصر، إن الناس كلها تشجع بعضها وتنزل واختاروا ما شئتم. اللي بيختار ربنا، واللي هيأمر بيه هيكون، وأنا والله راضي يا رب. قولوا يا رب. شعب مصر العظيم، إن نبتة الأمل تزدهر دائما بالعمل، والصدق في القول والتجرد في العمل هما السبيل الذي نبلغ به الحلم معا بإذن الله. ومعكم وبكم وبالله قبلنا. ستحيا مصر، تحيا مصر، تحيا مصر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام الوطني لجمهورية مصر العربية.
بقت صحراء رملة ألماس وياقوت. فيك الجغرافيا تعلم والتاريخ فاضل يتكلم، وعلمك على قلبي معلم، وبنيت في العيش جبين. كم شمس بتفوت ورا قمرة عمال بتشق الصحراء. أنا لك حبيبتي سمرة أتعب وأجدح وأموت. نرقص ونطير ونغني مين يعشق أكتر مني. ده أنا حاسس إني كأني برجع طفل صغنطوط. وبلادي بلادي بلادي ليكي حبي وفؤادي. يا سلام عالناس في بلادي ولا الجيش المظبوط. احنا شبابك ورجالك وضحكة نيلك وقنالك وصليبك ويا هلالك ماسكين ايدك على طول. احلوي يا مصر وقومي تعالي افرح ده اليوم يومي. ده انا راجل ملوي هدومي بوفي الوعد ومسؤول. كم شمس بتفوت ورا قمرة عمال بيشق الصحراء. أنا لك لحبيبتي سمرة أتعب وأجدح وأموت. نرقص ونطير ونغني مين يعشق أكتر مني. ده أنا حاسس إني كأني برجع طفل صغنطوط. وبلادي بلادي بلادي لكن حبي وفؤادي.
عنها مكتوبة حكايات بالعزيمة والإرادة كل يوم في إنجازات. الحكاية في مصر فكر قالها نبني وقالنا عنبر البارون اللي هنقدر عمره ما يقول استحالة. قام وسمى الله أكبر خلى لون الأرض أخضر جنة سبحان اللي صور بص شوف بعينك تعالى. مصر جت قبل التاريخ والتاريخ جه بعدها حالة نادرة من الجمال صعب تلقى زيها. مصر أم الدنيا ليها سحر تاني لوحدها. مصر جت قبل التاريخ والتاريخ جه بعدها حالة نادرة من الجمال صعب تلاقي زيها. مصر أم الدنيا ليها سحر تاني لوحدها. الحكاية في مصر فكر قالها نبني وقالنا عنبر البارون اللي هنقدر عمره ما يقول استحالة. قام وسمى الله أكبر خلى لون الأرض أخضر جنة سبحان اللي صور بص شوف بعينك تعالى. الحكاية في مصر فكر قالها نبني وقالنا عنبر البارون اللي هنقدر عمره ما يقول استحالة. قام وسمى الله أكبر خلى لون الأرض أخضر جنة سبحان اللي صور بص شوف بعينك تعالى.
كتف في كتفك ومفيش ولا فرصة نفوتها والخير بينا وهيفضل جوانا أنا وأنت مع بعض. الدنيا بتتغير والخير لو مين شافه صغير تصبح تلاقي في وقت قصير سايب ذكرى. ومادام عايشين هتلاقي الخير فيها بالملايين ونفات سنين. السكة هنفضل فيها ماشيين هنكمل فيها وهنكبر نحلم تاني نحلم أكتر والناس بتزيد والخير يكتر ونشوف بكرة. الإيد بالإيد ولا شيء في الدنيا يبقى بعيد والجاي سعيد بنروح من حلم لحلم جديد مع بعض أكيد هتكون أحلى وخلاص جايين. كل اللي سمعني يقول لي أمين مستنيين خيرنا وخير كل المصرية وكنت فين.
والآن مع كلمة بطل الحكاية السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية.
شكرا جزيلا. إن شاء الله تحيا مصر، تحيا بيكم كلكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. شعب مصر العظيم، أيها الشعب الأبي الكريم، لقد كانت أوقات طيبة ومثمرة تلك التي قضيناها معا على مدار الأيام الماضية، ونحن نسرد حكاية الوطن الذي نعمل من أجله جميعا، وواجهنا من أجل رفعته التحديات، وحققنا له بفضل الله الإنجازات. وأقول لكم لقد حققنا معا نحن المصريين ملحمة تاريخية حين تجاوزنا اليأس والإحباط واسترددنا مصرنا العزيزة من براثن جماعة الظلام والغدر، ثم تجاوزنا التحدي لكي نعيد بناء دولتنا العظيمة ليتحقق لأبنائها الكرامة والعدالة والتنمية. واجهنا إرهاباً غاشماً أراد النيل من عزائمنا، وارتوت أرضنا الطيبة بدماء الشهداء الأبرار من خيرة أبناء مصر. واسمحوا لي في اللحظة ديت لأن احنا في اللحظة اللي احنا موجودين فيها دي، احنا موجودين بالحالة اللي احنا موجودين فيها بفضل تضحيات هذه الأبناء، إن احنا نقف لهم ونقف لأسرهم عشان نقول لهم إن احنا أبداً لن ننسى لكم أبداً ما قدمتموه من أجل استقرار هذه البلد. تفضلوا استريحوا. شكراً. لم تلن عزائمنا أو تضعف أمام كل هذه التحديات، بل أعلن أبناء مصر وبناتها عن أنفسهم وخاضوا معركة بناء مصر، فحققوا لها الإنجاز، محققين المجد والفخر الوطني. وقد كانت إرادة المصريين وما زالت هي المحرك الرئيسي والباعث الأساسي لاستكمال الحلم في بناء دولتنا العصرية الحديثة التي تليق بما قدمه شعب مصر من تضحيات. شعب مصر العظيم، ونحن على أعتاب جمهوريتنا الجديدة التي تسعى لاستكمال مسيرة بقاء الدولة وإعادة بنائها على أسس الحداثة والديمقراطية، فإننا نجدد العهد معاً على العمل من أجل استكمال أحلامنا لمصرنا العزيزة، وطننا الغالي المروي بدماء الشهداء وتضحيات كل المصريين. وطناً عظيماً قوياً قائماً على أسس العدالة الاجتماعية والكرامة الإنسانية ودولة المؤسسات التي تحقق لمواطنيها الحياة الكريمة. ولأجل أحلامنا سنعمل معاً على تحقيقها. وقد تابعت باهتمام بالغ حالة الحوار الوطني التي كانت في شكلها الأولي مبشرة وباعثة على الاستمرار فيها، وقد وجهت الحكومة والأجهزة المعنية بالدولة للعمل على بحث ودراسة حزمة المخرجات التي أفرزها الحوار. وأؤكد لكم أنني أعتزم الاستمرار في هذه الحالة الحوارية، وكذا الاستمرار في تطوير وتنمية الحياة السياسية والحزبية. لتتحقق للدولة مسارات وبدائل ورؤى متعددة وبشكل دائم. السيدات والسادة، الحضور الكريم، وبعد أن تابعنا خلال فعاليات هذا المؤتمر من أرقام وحقائق عن واقع الدولة المصرية كيف كان وكيف أصبح، فإننا نجدد العهد بأنه سيكون واقعاً يفيض بالخير والسلام والمحبة لكل المصريين بإذن الله. فلا خوف على أمة يتعانق هلال مسجدها مع صليب كنيستها، ولا تنكسر أمة تجرد شبابها من الهوى إلا عشق الوطن كشباب مصر، ولا تسقط أمة حافظت سيداتها على صوت الضمير الوطني. فيقيني في أمتنا أنها لا تخاف ولا تنكسر ولا تسقط، بل تعلو فوق تحدياتها لتصنع للمجد أهراما وللحضارة تاريخا. وأقول لكم بلسان صادق كما عهدتكم بأنني حين لبيت نداء المصريين وتوليت المسؤولية التي حملوني إياها لم أكن أملك خزائن الأرض أو جوامع الوعود الوردية أو جوامع الوعود الوردية. لم أكن أملك سوى إيماني بالله وبمصر وانحيازي لإرادتكم والعمل بتجرد وإخلاص، حاملاً معي شرف العسكرية المصرية ويكفيني بها وساما على صدري. واجهت معكم وبكل التحديات والأزمات، واجهت معكم وبكم كل التحديات والأزمات، وعبرنا معا جسور الأمل. واليوم ونحن بصدد استحقاق انتخابي لتولي مسؤولية إدارة الدولة المصرية، فإنني كما تعهدت معكم منذ سنوات 10 مضت لا أبادر إلا باستدعاء المصريين الذين أدعوهم بدعوة صادقة أن يجعلوا هذه الانتخابات بداية حقيقية لحياة سياسية مفعمة بالحيوية تشهد تعددية وتنوعاً واختلافاً دون تجاوز أو تجريح. وكمواطن مصري قبل أن أكون رئيساً كانت سعادتي بالغة بهذا التنوع في المرشحين الذين بادروا لتولي المسؤولية. لهم جميعاً مني كل التقدير والاحترام. فالاختلاف سنة الله في خلقه وحقيقة لا يمكن إنكارها، والتنوع هو ثراء حقيقي يدلل على خصوبة أمتنا وقدرتها على البقاء. والحق أقول أنني قد بذلت الجهد وصدقت العهد قدر ما استطعت، وتجردت للوطن مخلصاً له العمل والنوايا. وكما لبيت نداء المصريين من قبل، فإنني قبل أن أقول الفقرة ديت هطلب منكم إن احنا نتوجه إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى وندعوه ونقول له يا رب. طب من فضلكم، طب اسمحوا لي، إن كان يا رب في غيري أولى بها مني فوفقه ويسر لي. ويا رب إذا كنت أنا أولى بها فوفقني ويسر لي. انتوا عايزين تتعبوا على طول بقى. طيب متشكر جدا. فإنني بإذن الله ألبي اليوم نداءهم مرة أخرى، وعقدت العزم هقول مرة تانية يا رب، يا رب أكون أنا أولى بها، يا رب أكون أنا أولى بها، يا رب أنا أكون أولى بها. وعقدت العزم على ترشيح نفسي لكم لاستكمال الحلم في مدة رئاسية جديدة. أعدكم بإذن الله بأن تكون امتدادا لسعينا المشترك من أجل مصر وشعبها. اتفضلوا استريحوا لو سمحتوا، اتفضلوا. وأدعو كل المصريين إلى المشاركة في هذا المشهد الديمقراطي ليختاروا بضميرهم الوطني المتجرد من يصلح، والله يولي من يصلح. تلك دعوتي الصادقة، وهذه إرادة المصريين التي أحترمها وأعمل بها ولها. أنا عايز أقول لكم إن أنا عمري ما وعدت وعود ولا قلت كلمة ما أقدرش أعملها. أنا كل اللي هقدر أقوله لكم إن أنا هفضل أشتغل أشتغل أشتغل، وربنا اللي يوفق. وأنا بكلمكم وبكلم كل مصري ومصرية، من فضلكم والله هيسعدني جدا ويشرفني جدا إن نسب المشاركة من كل المصريين اللي هم لهم حق الانتخاب إن هم ينزلوا، حتى والله لو لم يختاروني، حتى والله لو لم يختاروني. أنا عايزكم تظهروا للعالم إن هنا في دولة، وهنا في ناس، وهنا في إرادة الناس، مش إرادة حاكم. إرادة الناس هي اللي هتجيب الحاكم. ولما الناس كده كلها تشوف في العالم كله إن كل المصريين نزلوا، أي ما كانت النتيجة هتسعدنا كلنا، لأنها هتشرفنا وهتشرف بلدنا. فإحنا يعني بنقعد ساعات كتير جدا في أمور كتيرة، مش كتير على مصر، إن الناس كلها تشجع بعضها وتنزل واختاروا ما شئتم. اللي بيختار ربنا، واللي هيأمر بيه هيكون. وأنا والله راضي يا رب. قولوا يا رب. شعب مصر العظيم، إن نبتة الأمل تزدهر دائما بالعمل، والصدق في القول والتجرد في العمل هما السبيل الذي نبلغ به الحلم معا بإذن الله. ومعكم وبكم وبالله قبلنا. ستحيا مصر، تحيا مصر، تحيا مصر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام الوطني لجمهورية مصر العربية.